Some people say they have seen the chupacabra. After some tequila, he was dancing the lambada. We don't know where he has come from, making a Mexicano looking like a dum-dum. They say that he's a monkey. I think the whole story's just a little monkey. There's a funky-eyed creature that they call the chupacabra. 4 feet tall like a big chihuahua. In Mexico City, Puerto Rico, Nicaragua. Hey, chupacabra. Hay un criatura que se llama chupacabra. Es muy feo como chivis para Roma. Tenemos que dar algunas palabras. Oh, chupacabra.
Oh, Chupacabra indeed. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of the Squatchable podcast, where, we're not going to be looking at any videos this week. We're going to be talking about some hoaxes that have irritated us in the past. Joining me, as always, from the sunny climes of Tennessee, Nikki.
Hey.
From the Emerald Isle, Kevin.
Hello, everybody.
From the forested Washington State, Phil.
Hello.
And from the depths of the bayou, Chubbs.
Greetings to everyone.
I apologize for that. I will never attempt a Louisiana accent again in anyone's presence. If you enjoy us people, you may enjoy the Battle Drawn Misadventures of Two Bigfoot. Head on over to Facebook and Bigfoot with Keith and Colin, where this week I will be doing some more black and white silent films. So I found them this week and I like them, so I'm going to bring them back. Without further ado, I am your host, Richard James Allen. Let's get on with it. So like I said, this week we're going to be talking about Bigfoot hoaxes or hoaxes in general that annoyed us. You know, I say Bigfoot hoaxes. One of us, of course, decided to do the opposite of that and talk about something completely different. Kevin, why don't we start with you?
Well,
what hoax irritated you?
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, I will say this now. For the longest period of time, I was really into UFO stuff, primarily, right? And so, that's just one of those things that I've actually had the most amount of experience with trying to research. And so, there's things about Bigfoot that are interesting, hoaxes and stuff like that. The primary thing that people would ask me about with Bigfoot is, do you think that this person's hoaxing or not? And that's a tough one because, it gets to the point where there's always a little thread of truth in some of the stories that people tell. And that's what makes a good hoax, to be honest with you. And then it goes way farther. So, but I'm thinking the thing that annoys me the most is the Roswell alien autopsy film. And I don't think that it's too far away from too much because of the fact that it's, obviously a celluloid piece of history that people believe is real. And, so I'll take you back to, whenever I first, heard this story. So, it's not going to work. And I had a sound effect for it, but anyway, 1993, young Nick Pope is working for the Ministry of Defense in London. And, he gets invited to go to see this film. And he sees it. And it's, because he worked for the Ministry of Defense and everything like that. He sees this autopsy film that was supposedly come out of the woodwork by this record producer named Pete Santilli. No, Ray Santilli. I'm sorry. Pete Santilli's a guy on YouTube. So Pete Santilli comes up with this video. He says, yes, this is the video from Roswell. It's a couple of minutes long. We'll sell it to you, sell you the rights to this film. You can do whatever you want to with it. And so Fox buys it. It's one of the biggest one-time shows that Fox has ever had. It's hosted by Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek, Next Generation.
Oh, yeah.
And
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Before I go any further.
Yeah.
It was they said they had a video.
Oh, I mean, a film. A
Okay.
film.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
film.
Okay.
It's a film.
All right.
Yeah. It's a
I
film.
feel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so they had this film, and it's a few things, long, and so if you watch the video of the broadcast, or the alien autopsy film, you can see the alien sitting on the slab, and there's certain things at the time that people said was wrong with it, but anybody who really liked alien stuff really liked this video. You know what I mean? It was a little bit of self confirmation bias. It looked like what we were supposed to have them look like, everything like that. The room itself was well appointed, and everything was, like the clock was authentic, the film was authentic, the even the Bakelite instrumentation on the walls were all right, everything like that. So everybody liked it, but it was never pointed out to be anything more than that, the whole believe it or not thing. You could believe it. Is this real? Is it not real? Well, then about 10 years after that, 10 or 15 years after that, it turns out that it was a complete hoax, that Santilli had hired these people to film this, and the guy who was the guy who filmed it was this Greek director, and he went on the eBay, and you can still do this now. You can go onto eBay and buy for about $100 the camera that they used to take this, as well as film stock from that period of time. You can buy old film stock. And so what had happened is that this was all done in an apartment in Camden Town in London. And basically they built a set inside this apartment. And the guy had, this set director had gotten it all perfect. And, the special effects guy had made this thing, and they, basically the guts were all, just basically awful, awful, and the OFFOAL,
Yeah.
guts that he'd bought from some butcher shop on the way there, and filled it up. And the way that it was cut, because this film was only basically 50 feet long, you buy it in 50-foot length film packets, that he had to basically time it very, very quickly, so that where it stopped, the other one would come on. And so that basically it was all planned out so that no matter what happened, that they were right in the right spot where it was going to cut, and then they had to fuse it together and strip it together and everything like that. Well, when that came out, then Santilli comes out and says, of course, because then it looks like everything's a hoax. Santilli says, "Oh, nay, I did have the film, but it was so badly degraded that we had to reenact it." This is 10 years after the fact. So you've got a hoax. It's been called a hoax. Then he says, "Oh, no, it's a reenactment of the film that was so badly degraded that we had to reenact it, but I didn't feel like I needed to tell you that at the time." And so this film supposedly has parts of the original film in it, and so that's what they were saying. It was like one or two frames of a thing that was in this, and then nobody believed Santilli. Well, then so that went back, and everybody who wanted to believe in alien hoaxes still had something to hold on to, and so they kept on to it. And then because it goes along with everybody's idea of Richard Nixon supposedly taking Jackie Gleason down to some base to look at aliens, in a freezer, and all these different ideas, all these different stories started to, basically enforce this confirmation bias. So nobody ever wanted to believe that it was fake. And so, and then they said, well, it becomes this big issue. Then it sort of came up about a year and a half ago, whenever the Tic Tac videos came out for the Navy. So the Navy comes out and says, yeah, UFOs, we've taken video of UFOs. So obviously that's the thing, right? So the videos there saying UFOs, in the strictest definition of unidentified flying objects that we can't explain what it is, exist, because here's a video of it. And so everybody says, well, that means aliens exist, which is not what UFOs mean. It just means you can't identify what it is. And so at that point in time, another tranche of these things come out, supposedly from another source that says, that the alien autopsy film is real. So then it becomes one of these things where everybody starts to talk about it again like it is real. People like Linda Moulton Howe and all these other people start saying, what if it's real? What if it's real? And so I was asked to look into it from my standpoint, just to verify all the stories and everything, because I used to be in a UFO investigative team thing. And I looked at it, and the documents itself that said it was real were, spurious at best. Nothing fit any kind of documentation as far as how military memorandums are supposed to be formatted. Because if anybody's been in the military, this is supposed to go on this line. This is supposed to go on this line. It didn't follow any of that stuff. And so it came back and people were still talking about it. I remember listening to a program last year on Space.radio asking the same question, if it was real. So that's been sort of, in my opinion, the biggest hoax in the sort of paranormal world that has been proven to be a hoax, but nobody will believe that it's a hoax. So, again, my question would be, are we so invested in certain videos or films, for example, in the Bigfoot world, that if it's proven to be a hoax, will anybody believe it? And that's my thing that annoys me, because of the fact that people want to believe what they want to believe. And that's true of me, and it's true of a lot of different people, but it's sort of sad and annoying, and it's annoyed me for a lot of reasons. And that's why I don't investigate UFO stuff anymore, because I gave all that information over to this other person. And even though I had vetted it and everything like that, it just didn't matter. Didn't matter what I said. Didn't matter if I proved it or not, that it wasn't real. It was real to them, and that's what they wanted to do it. So, wow. Yeah. So it pissed me off.
A sad tale from Kevin there about the Roswell alien autopsy bullshit. I think that annoys.
It's real. Yeah.
Well, but again, that doesn't mean that Roswell's not real, and it doesn't mean that there isn't other things. But the problem with it is if you make a claim that then you back up with false documentation, you're an asshole. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
No, the guy was a douche. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the way it is. I have nothing against somebody saying whatever you say or whatever, but don't do that. I mean, because at that point in time, all these people do is make every one of us look like we're raving lunatics. And I might be a raving lunatic, you
don't rave that much.
No, but my psychiatrist says I'm not nuts. But I'm just but I'm just saying, from that standpoint, it just takes away from that. It's just like the whole idea to a vast number of skeptical people, aliens are fake, and which they may be. And I mean, I don't know. And Bigfoot's just a guy in a suit. That's just the way it is. And there's nothing you can do to convince them. And there's no way you're going to convince them any different. They're just as bad as the people who, in my opinion, believe in things to the point where once you prove to a certain degree that you shouldn't trust this stuff, they'll still believe it. And then there's people who will not believe it no matter what.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, I believe that Bigfoot could be real, but I'm also I'm one of those people that also want proof. I want to be able to see, something that's obviously not some guy in a suit.
Does that seem fair?
So, I agree with you, Nikki. I agree with everybody. I mean, if I didn't think Bigfoot was real, I wouldn't be on this program, and I wouldn't, or if I wouldn't, be on the program, and I wouldn't, say the stuff that I do, because, I do honestly believe that there is something out there, else there's no point in talking about it.
Hey, Nikki,
Yes, sir.
watch the Freeman footage again.
Okay.
Yeah, just watch it again.
No, it's not that I don't believe. I just, most of the time, the videos that we see are obvious, bull
Only
crap.
about 99% of the time.
Right. There are some that are fairly
99.9.
and then there are some that is a guy in a ghillie suit. So.
Yeah.
What is the music?
Yeah. There we go. You're watching a porn or something?
That's what it sounded like.
It's not me, by the way. Who I would think that if anybody actually took some sort of a poll, the person most likely to do the show and watch a porn at the same time would probably be me.
Yeah, I believe that completely. But anyway, yeah, so that is it. Kevin doesn't like the Roswell footage, quote unquote. Chubbs, I believe you have a tale of a Bigfoot in a box.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to December 2012, and the MABRC, the Mid-America Bigfoot, what is it? Something Center, Research Center, and we probably all heard of D.W. Lee, and these we were doing forums back then, and these letters come out from an Ed Smith.
Nah, never mind.
They have Daisy in a box.
I already got the answer.
Well, I just, for this one, over the course of like a month and a half, all these, like you have a team like Quantum Team 6, and all these letters come out, and everybody was biting at the chip to go like, oh, this seems real. And they were testing Daisy, and they described the cage, and when it turned out to be fake, that was like the biggest heartbreak for me back then, because we were starting to get into the new age of, like, we didn't even have like infrared cameras yet, but that they were taking advantage of like people who really wanted the science of it, because and even you, Phil, were in there because they got Melissa Hovey in on it, and this person, and Jeff Meldrum, and like everybody got involved, and even things like the Squatchable podcast came out of it. Like everybody was in on it, and we all were depressed, I think, when it ended. So Daisy in a Box to me was the worst, because for a minute I think we all were like, oh, this sounds good. And then no, we're just a bunch of, I don't even know where these people went. So to me, that was depressing. I'm sure we all remember that.
Well, for those who were drinking the Diet Peach Snapple, they were all anxious. to see the real thing. But
was Tom Biscardi part of that? Like his name didn't really come up.
well, actually, he was a part of it. Not too many people knew, but no, I was part of the the Team Taser Doubters actually group. So
yeah, I'm sure. Probably Richard. Like I remember when Steve Alcorn was an investigative reporter for Richter's show.
Yeah.
And the 40 and slip kind of came out of that. But Daisy in the Box to me was one of the first big hoaxes where it's like, oh, we got something, and there was no photos or video. And we're like, well, you got to show us something. No, you got to believe us. Secret Quantum Team 6.
Yeah.
And
Quantra.
So,
and then they moved the body and they tested it, and it was unhealthy. I'm sorry. It was just that upset me because we all for a second were like, oh, they might have something. And then these people were like, nope. We fooled you.
That kind of came on the coattails of the Bigfoot in the freezer. So
I thought that was the freezer was after.
No, it was before.
No? Okay.
Was it kind of the same thing where there was
It
no
was the same
pictures?
thing.
No, okay.
Except Bigfoot in the freezer. They had photographs, but it was a Bigfoot in a block of ice, supposedly.
This is Daisy in a Box was like I said, it was just the forum letters were leaking out from an Ed Smith and this guy. And then they kept contacting like real people like Dr. Meldrum. I say real people, but like whatever people who you might think would go evaluate, and no information would ever come out. And then boom, now hoax. Say, oh, thanks. So to me, that was the most depressing because it had a chance when I first heard about it. But a lot of good did come out of it because some of us right here were there, listening. So I say bad and good.
I tend to agree with you. Part of the thing that I'll say about these different shows or these different hoaxes and things like that, that I find most interesting, just from the standpoint of a disinformation idea, is who you use as a false, like a force multiplier, I guess would be the military term that you would use on that. That it's if you can get somebody with a big name to get sucked into it, then it's at a certain point in time with credibility, then we all we all have a tendency to go towards it because that person's supposedly an authoritative figure on it. And and unfortunately that's the thing I would say that Dr. Meldrum has a big target on his back, because if you were a hoaxer, you'd want to get him involved to a certain degree, because at that point in time, that is the person that you would sort of get the most credibility for, because I think most people would just be, if you went to any other scientist, they'd say, yeah, go hump somebody else's leg. But I mean, Dr. Meldrum, because he does have interest in it, you gotta, that's the thing that he has to protect himself, I believe, because I think multiple people in the past have tried to tie him into different things. I
can tell you right now, by the way, somebody is grilling him about him being with Todd Standing, and he won't answer. So it's still going on. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, for me to be taken in, or for, maybe that's a different thing. Somebody could say, okay, well, Kevin, it was taken in by these other people. That doesn't ruin my whole, sort of tenure and all these different things where it would for somebody else. So, that's a sad state of affairs. But, I think that these hoaxes are I want to know what they think they're going to get out of it. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, the idea of a certain amount of money that you're going to make, I don't know. I don't know what these people make.
I always do the thing where, okay, if somebody makes a claim, there's going to be an end point where you got to either show something or you don't have something. And like Rick Dyer, like he always knew, like, yeah, I made a fake thing. But that's like, I picked Daisy in the Box because it's like they were trying to trick us with leaking information and like, but you still have an end game. Like, where are you going to end up? You got to do something. And there's always a letdown. So,
yeah. I agree. I think you're on mute, Richard.
Featuring Bud Light, heroes of
real man of genius.
Well, hey, Phil, were you still part of Team Taser back then?
Yeah.
And like Michael Merchant, Richter, and all them. Is that when the group got together?
No, oh no, we got together back in gosh, it was 11 or early 2012 or somewhere in there.
Cool.
But oh yeah, there were several of us. Yeah.
I enjoyed that because y'all were taking a look at what was going on, and that's why I like the 40 slip, because it was like, okay, some of this ain't real. And Richter at least looked into stuff. I mean,
yeah. Well, but
yeah, there he is.
Yeah. Good times. We all had a laugh with that. Chubbs may have been irritated by that, but that is my favourite Bigfoot hoax in the community. I enjoy that story a lot. You know, Ed Smith, Team Quantra, the whole deal. It was a good time. Phil,
was Ed Smith a real guy though? Does anybody know?
Yeah, he really existed.
He did. Okay.
It was just a steaming hot mess, as Nicky would say. That's the best way of describing Daisy in a Box. It was just a hot mess. But it amused me greatly, and it amused all of us in Team Taser. We all had a good laugh with that. And as you said, the Squatchable podcast, you know, they use that for, the Squatchers Lounge, they use that for a while as the Squatch turns. No, it was a running joke in the community for a long time. Okay, Phil, I believe you have a tale of a film.
A film? Yeah, I guess so. Mine actually took place back in 2005. And there was a college student. He was a graduate. He was into videography and so forth. And he wanted to produce videos. And so he came up with this channel called The Videodrome. And in 2006, he loaded up a video on Videodrome, and it was supposed to be this documentary called the creature in the giant sequoia, and that disappeared. I mean, it disappeared around 2013 when another portion of that documentary appeared on YouTube. And that was called Bigfoot Slowed Down and Magnified, uploaded by Sean Bannon. And it showed Bigfoot. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure as soon as you saw it, you'd remember. There were some guys out in the woods, and they're
I'm playing it now.
Yeah, and they're I'm not really looking at it anyway. So, he jumps down off of the bluff. Bigfoot jumps down off the bluff. It looks really good. Guy's down in the creek, and he takes off running, and then Bigfoot takes off running and kind of in the opposite direction. And so the uploader, the Sean Bannon, advertises this as an actual event, and said that the three of them are out and they were filming. And after seeing this, they kind of took different positions and started shooting the Bigfoot with the cameras and so forth. And everything that you saw in that Bigfoot footage was shot within 1 minute at the same time as it happened, type of thing. I made a a video about it, showing that he was a filmmaker and all this, and how the time, the 50 some odd seconds that it took, just didn't add up as far as the position of the Bigfoot. Like it didn't run into the woods. It just kind of hung around for all these photo ops for 1 minute. There's like 3 different shots of it running through the woods, and then a distant shot of it running across this field. And I realized that this had to have been something that this guy created. And I discovered that, yeah, he had this other channel called Videodrome, and in that he showed this mockumentary. So it wasn't like a real documentary; it was a mockumentary, and Bigfoot was part of it. And they had in the background they had voiceover of I don't know if it was Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM, and they had that running in the background with this going on. And I figured, yeah, okay, well, it's a fake, so let's go back to Videodrome and see if it's there. Well, it wasn't there. He deleted it before he uploaded just the Bigfoot portion of it to YouTube, calling it, Bigfoot, slowed down and magnified. So at that point, it was advertising it as a Bigfoot. People really fell for it. And it was re-released in 2014, again, as Creature in the Giant Sequoias. And in there, he never denied that it was a Bigfoot. He never denies it wasn't Bigfoot. He was on one radio talk show. I can't remember who it was with. That gosh, who was it that he was with? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Facebook Find Bigfoot. Facebook Find Bigfoot got involved and actually did an interview with him on their channel. And nowhere in that interview does he say it was a Bigfoot. And nor does Facebook Find Bigfoot ever question him about that particular point. All they were doing was basically asking him how it was filmed, the equipment they used, the lighting, the time of day, where it was at, that kind of thing. And he kind of stuck to his guns. So yeah, the 3 of us were out there camping, and we were trying to gather film for this documentary we were working on. And all of a sudden, Bigfoot shows up, jumps down off the bluff. And then it was right after that all of a sudden Thinker Thunker came up with a video. And Thinker Thunker said that he basically and essentially called it a possible Bigfoot. He was validating many points of the original video. He stated that he could actually see a thick undercoating under the of the fur, that he saw muscle definition as it was running, jumping over a log, that sort of thing. And I said, I really have to go back and take a closer look. So I did. It was 2014. And what I did was I actually slowed it down frame by frame, and I found edit points, 5 of them in the video. In a couple of the edits, or between these edit points, I saw that it was at a different time of day. One shows it running off, and the sun's coming from one direction, and then it cuts to like a close-up of it running away, still running away, and all of a sudden, it's late afternoon, and the sun's in the other direction. And all of these are all jump cuts from one segment to another, which indicates to me that no, this wasn't shot in the same minute. This was something that was a series of videos that was shot over a length of time and spliced together. And Thinker Thunker chose to debate that, but that doesn't matter. It was even after that I saw a photograph, a single photograph that was a behind the scenes photo from this guy, this Sean Bannon, and showed all 3 of them together, and Bigfoot was posing next to them in the costume. which I never included in the original video. I actually discovered the photograph after the Thinker Thunker episode. But the fact that there was all these different cuts at different times, and that it stretched out for such a length of time and had to be all spliced together, it was obviously a fake. But what really makes this Sean Bannon a douche is that he kind of started out with the idea that I'm going to make this mockumentary and it's going to be great, and then he changes his mind when he gets out of college and he starts to do real video work. He decides he's going to take just this one segment, put it on video on YouTube, and make some cash off of it, get a bunch of views. Kind of a dork, kind of a crap move. I just didn't like the guy. And he never responded to people who sent him messages, saying, "Listen, we just want you to say from your own lips, is this real or is it not real? One or the other." Of course, he never responded. And I sent him 3 messages. He never responded. So anyway, I think the last video I made kind of puts it all in perspective. But yeah, I thought that was a the reason I chose that is because it looks so damn good. I mean, when you see it coming down off the hill and that with the hair all going out different directions and running, it looks good, but it's just it's fake hair. It's a fake costume.
Yeah, but if Bigfoot can control space and time, that makes it work.
Mm-hmm.
See, your problem is you're not open-minded enough.
No, I'm very open-minded.
I'm teasing.
I'm just not open-minded enough, so my brains fall out.
No, I'm just saying that's sort of, and as well, this is sort of like the pot calling the kettle black here for me to say this, but this is where we've moved to from a standpoint, of all of a sudden you just have to start to change. The
laws of physics.
Well, yeah. I mean,
you cannot change the laws of physics.
Well, so if the laws of physics are we don't really understand it, but I'm just saying in some degree. But this is the situation, and I think that's part of the reason why some people have gone towards woo completely is because of the fact that if you're there,
you can display anything away.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's my point. Once it becomes an idea of this being more than human, then you can sort of say to yourself, then anything applies. That's that sort of idea of Star Wars. Like you're never going to get laser sounds in space and stuff like that. But if you were flying through space and things didn't blow up and make noises and things like that, you would be disappointed. But that's not how it would actually work in space, in a vacuum, But whereas we're looking towards these types of things now as a way to explain these things away, and so people can come up with videos every week. You know what I mean? Like there's some people that can have an interaction with a Bigfoot every day if they want one. We all know who they are. But what I'm saying is that's that again, that ruins it for everybody. And the effect that when somebody makes some sort of a claim about it, then and I honestly believe that you should say whatever you experience is what you should say you experienced. That doesn't make it true. Like I said, we were talking to Richard before the show, and I said, doesn't mean that what I say is true. It just means that I believe it's true. And so but you still at the same point in time should say everything that happened, because if sometime in the future we do understand things in a different way, you can't go back and say, again, it's the same as the Santilli film. You can't go back and say, oh, well, this is what I really meant to say. Then you get in your own problems then. Then at that point in time, at what point should anybody believe you? That's my opinion.
Yeah, but science is always changing. I mean, some science can dictate one thing. Oh yeah, well, the human body has 4 humors, and then later on, as the science changes, or the proof and evidence changes, then science changes along with it.
Yeah, but that's also the point that we have to sort of talk about, in the sense of the fact that most people don't understand that, Phil. When like the only thing that's absolute, in my opinion, and I may not be right, is mathematics. That's the universal thing. Like math will be the same no matter where you are in the universe, probably. That's the closest thing that you can say to be a universal language would be mathematics. But when you go to do pre-med or something like that, I remember my dad's a doctor. He came in and he said, this professor said on the first day, said 50% of what I'm going to tell you in 20 years isn't going to be true. You know what I mean? And at least they saw it that way,
Mm-hmm.
that you can't do it like that. But that's not how a lot of people come to this discipline at all. Whereas obviously now we understand DNA, and now we understand eDNA, or we think we do, or whatever. And
Right.
so you've got to say you've got to be able to sort of move with, there's theoretical science and then practical science too, but you've got to be able to sort of go between these two different types of things and say, is that possibility there that this could happen? And so that's where I get into a lot of trouble, because if I say theoretically something should be able to be done, or should be able to be possible, then I get in a lot of trouble, because then people jump on the top of that and say, see, he thinks it's real. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying theoretically it's possible. There's a big difference. But I think that a lot of times they haven't learned any sort of science past whatever they learned in college, and haven't tried to catch up. I'm just, trying to throw that out there.
And that is a good point to make, Kevin. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. I dislike the hiccups enormously, because none of the old wives' tale work in curing it.
Vinegar works for me.
I heard that holding your breath and swallowing 3 times works.
That never works for me. Vinegar, though.
Well, but hiccups are what? It's an over
reaction. Yeah, of your esophagus and stuff, like gets.
Yeah. So technically, if you did hold your breath long enough that you could change the, oxygen level down.
We have special guest Bill's dog.
Hey, how's it going? I this. You're talking about all these Bigfoot thingies. I just love this topic. I once talked about ancient thingies. I love the ancient thingies.
Ancient thingies.
I never thought that I'd actually be able to see Phil's Comstock live on the air, but
Hey, I represent that notion. Wise up there, buckaroo.
I'm only joking.
No, you're not.
That's great.
You're being a dick.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm good at it. I'm good at I'm good at it.
Okay. Oh, for God's sake! I would get the hiccups right when we're talking about mine.
Yeah. Well, do you want us to talk a little bit more and give you a minute to hold your breath?
Oh yeah.
Well, Nikki, there's got to be some sort of hoax that you've sort of been, looked at and said, this is just ridiculous. Maybe if you could just say this is the funniest thing that people have tried. All right, not the one that annoys you the most, but what one has been the one that sort of has made you so annoyed at the time that you would think to yourself, I mean, how can anybody believe that? Can you think of one?
Off the top of my head, a lot of mine are just me being irritated with conspiracy theories, not so much hoaxes. Like, I do a lot of woo. I enjoy a good conspiracy theory. I enjoy woo. I'm new to the Bigfooting thing, so I didn't actually. I knew that I because of the way the week was, I wasn't going to be able to kind of get in and delve deep into Bigfoot hoaxes, and I thought that that's what we were doing. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That was hoax.
Yeah. I mean, so do you do like, so you do things like ghosts and things like that?
Yeah.
Is there a television show that you look at and just say,
all of them, like Ghost Hunters, and a lot of them, I used to spiritually clean houses.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times, like, I'm very skeptical even when I'm cleaning houses like that. A lot of the times there's just, especially I've noticed on YouTube and TikTok, there's a lot of editing and just crazy stuff. Like, that someone's behind that door probably doing some knocking.
You bet.
So I don't know. I'm trying to think of a hoax.
Well, that one show, that British ghost hunting show with that with the one guy who talked to Sam. Sam?
Yeah.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Is that you?
Derek Accord, and Derek Accord was his name, and Yvette Fielding was her name. Most Haunted was the name of the show.
There you go.
Yeah.
Boy, that thing, I cracked up every time I tried to watch that.
Yeah. But the funniest thing that I think, the paranormal show that I think actually is the best out there is the one. There's a BuzzFeed's something like Paranormal Explained, Unsolved. Yeah. Because
those are good.
The guy who's the tall man, Ryan, is that his name?
Shane is the skeptic.
Oh, Shane is the skeptic. And I love Shane.
I love him in the spirit box, because the spirit box to me is the most ludicrous thing in the world, and his attitude towards it is just my attitude towards it, and I heart him so hard.
Yeah, but the other guy, Ryan, I guess Ryan Bagala is his name, but it's kind of like he always shows up, and it's like, this is gonna be it, and then by the end of the thing, Ryan always looks like somebody licked the red off his candy, and and Shane is all happy.
Shane and Ryan also do something called Puppet History, which I cannot recommend enough.
I think we watched like 7 of them the other day together, because he was like, "You've got to check this out," and it's amazing.
Yeah,
I've never seen that. I will have to look at that.
Absolutely, Puppet History.
So good.
So good. Okay, my hiccups have gone, so let me tell you about my least favorite hoax. And let me wind back the clock for you. Everyone knows me in the Bigfoot community as the guy with the blog, the guy that waged a one-man war against Matthew Johnson, called him some very nasty names. Someone that had no patience for Kelly Shaw stuttering and blithering through his multiple videos. Someone that, just really took a hard look at everybody in the community and just told them to sod off, basically. That is what, I love my cartoons, but my blogs are what I'm most known for. But what if I told you there was a time when I was as naive as the next wide-eyed child?
No.
When I would believe almost anything.
Say it isn't so.
When I came into the Bigfoot world and was like, oh my God, that's real. Oh my God, that's real. And this video, this hoax, represents the end of innocence for me. A time that I can literally look back and go, I was, nice, I believed everything, to I was a cynical bastard afterwards. And this video is Timber Giant Bigfoot's The Giant Revealed. Now,
Jungle Tim.
it's a pretty well-known video. It starts with an FBI warning. He is, of course, a Canadian citizen, so I don't know why the FBI would care about his videos. But anyway, this video. This video isn't so much a bunch of red flags as one long continuous red. It is obviously a hoax. There's no way to look at this video and see it as anything. I feel sorry for people that go, "Oh, this might be legitimate." No, there's no way. He turns the camera back on his own face at one point. You know, in a few minutes, we're going to see the subject. He's going to get within like a few feet of it, and he's going to be like, "Oh, he hasn't noticed me." Any wild animal worth its salt is going to bloody know you're there, Jim. Don't try and BS us. And as I said, the reason this video irritates me so much is it's the end of my naivety. It's the end of my innocence. Because I used to be a huge supporter of Timber Giant Bigfoot. The thing behind the bush, you know, I used to have a daughter. I know what it's like. You know, maybe he really did get concerned about his kid, and that's why he didn't film whatever was behind the bush. The thing in front of the tree, maybe he genuinely didn't notice it. I don't know. I'm not out there. He's going out there. I'm not out there. But this video is so obviously a hoax. So obviously. And the thing that proves it beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond the wrinkles in the suit on his kid or whatever, beyond the jogger, beyond the dog, beyond the fact that he's clearly in a car park somewhere, the thing that proves that this is a hoax beyond reasonable doubt is the $10,000 challenge. Mr. Angus Wangus, a fellow YouTuber, after watching this, offered Timber Giant publicly $10,000 for an unedited version of this video. And I looked into this. This constitutes a verbal contract under Canadian law. Mr. Angus Wangus is a Canadian citizen. Timber Giant Bigfoot is a Canadian citizen. If Timber Giant Bigfoot had uploaded an unedited version of this video, he would have been able to, you know, take Mr. Angus Wangus to court and get his 10 grand because it was a verbal contract under Canadian law. But he uploaded 5 different versions of this video, and then we have yet to see an edited version. They've all got sound edits. They've all got cuts in it. I hate this video with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns. It irks me. It irritates me. Every time I fucking see it, it just makes me want to grab someone and punch them repeatedly until their brains leak out over the floor. This is the end.
I'd buy that for $1.
This is the end of my innocence in the Bigfoot community, and that is why I despise it. There you go.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, yeah. I couldn't have even got past the boy band haircut, you know, at the start of it, you know. But it is sad when we all become super cynical. You know what I mean? And you know, that's the thing that I've find from this is that, you know, obviously that's a sad realization. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who come to that conclusion on their own and never have anybody to talk to about the fact that's it. You know, that they've come into this community and they've gone out of this community, and you know, those are the people who genuinely, you know, if you think you've seen a Bigfoot or something like that, where are you going to go to try to find out information about it? Because, you know, that's what happened to my wife. You know, whenever we had our experience, it's like, where are you going to go? And then next thing you know, you're down at some conference and you're getting, you know, spoon fed all this information as far as the way it should be or the way that it isn't. And those people just come in and out of it. They don't really ever talk about their experiences or whatever. And so, to be honest with you, it's tough that a bunch of quote unquote researchers dictate to a lot of people what should be in the woods and what shouldn't be in the woods. And nobody ever actually gets to say what they've seen. Because like I said, I've talked to a ton of people around here that have had experiences that they believe to be Bigfoot, and yet they do not want anybody in the Bigfoot community to know about it, because of this person or another person or whatever. They've tried to talk to somebody about it, and of course you can go. I mean, let's just look at some of the people that we've named off as people who have annoyed us over the years. You're told that's not true. It's this, it's that, it's this, especially whenever you start going into the metaphysical aspect of it, there are bullies who will bully people into, saying that they, or leading them to believe that what they're interpreting or what they're seeing isn't what's actually happening, and that's just crazy. No wonder we have no really good database on anything, because because by the time you're done getting your head shrunk by somebody trying to convince you that it's this or that, or take this part of the story out or add this part of the story to it, there's just nothing that you can say is relatively accurate. And I find that sort of really disgusting in a way.
They just fail to realize that nothing can be really accurate. You have people that have a knee-jerk reaction if they come into it saying, I've had an experience, and then they start watching videos, and these videos end up to be, fakes. Then all of a sudden they jump the shark, and all of a sudden it's like, it's not real. It's nothing. It's all crap,
Yeah.
And they go the opposite. I mean, it's either black or white with them. But in any belief system, and in any time you have those offering things up as so-called evidence, there's a lot of gray there. I mean, you got to recognize that.
Well, I've always found it to be interesting, not whether people have a positive or negative view of Sasquatch, not whether they believe that it's not whether they think it's woo or whether they think it's a BE, if to quote Riggleman. But what I find is that the reaction that they have to their experience seems way more dictated by the person that they originally tell it to than anything else. In other words, if somebody can say to, if somebody says to me, I think I saw Bigfoot, and I say, wow, man, that's really cool. What happened? And they say, well, they were standing in the road, and then it looked at me and then went away,
It disappeared.
No, but just say it walks off the trail, right? And then you say, oh, that's amazing. It's obviously a peaceful creature. It wasn't trying to get in your way. It was just trying to observe you, and then everything else. But then if they go to somebody else that's like, oh, he was 2 seconds away from bluff charging you, and next thing you know, you would have been strewn from here all over the place.
He was in the hunting mode.
Yes, exactly. That so you can see, if you're really catching what my drift is that the story is actually so tainted by the person that they tell it to that never goes away. You know what I mean? And so that reaction of the initial response to who they talk to seems to be down the road of whether they want to kill it or whether they want to try to communicate with it again or anything else. That original thing. Now, that's not necessarily true for everybody, because people, I think, like Wes Germer and people like that, who genuinely had a negative reaction to some of the experiences they've had. You couldn't convince them one way or the other that it was all happy slappy. But the issue is that for a lot of these stories, whether they take a positive or negative spin on it really does matter to, the type of Facebook forum or video they look at first.
Like like the Freeman situation where people saying, "Oh, he was a hoaxer because he made Bigfoot casts." Well, he did that in an attempt to duplicate what he actually found, and he wasn't trying to hoax anybody with these casts.
Right.
But that part doesn't come out. It's like, oh, he made casts, so therefore he's hoaxer, and that's the only part that's stuck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing that we have. You have to just sort of, look at sort of if you are in this community, you gotta have to be willing to look like you're going to have to be willing to be ridiculed, unfortunately. And that's especially if you're an experiencer, you're really going to have to be willing to say that. And so that's why a lot of people who say they never had an experience with Bigfoot oftentimes have, but don't want anybody to know. You know what I mean? But you're not going to spend 20 years in the Bigfoot community never having some sort of an experience just out of just sheer curiosity. I mean, maybe that's true, but I think that the days of the great white hunter are sort of over. You know what I mean? Maybe somebody who's 70 and they saw the what do you call it, Patterson Gimlin film, and then they decide that they're going to go out and try to see that. But I don't know if that's necessarily the way that other people would do it anymore. There's people who go out there and film nothing knowing that it's nothing, and then there's people out there that go out there and film something believing that it's something else, or misidentifying it, and then there's and then there's stories and everything that goes along with it. But unfortunately, it just seems like it's just different groups of people who just have different views on it, and I don't think that that we're going to find out the truth until everybody sort of puts themselves in the same sort of thing and say, whether you would go out in the woods with me or not shouldn't be dictated to the fact that I believe that I tell the truth about everything I'm experiencing. I'm not going to be the guy who's going out there trying to like nail bacon to a tree or something, because I think that's stupid. I know people that do that kind of crap, because they think, oh, Bigfoot's just happy and and he's just trying to be our forest friend. I don't believe in that, you know what I mean? But then on the other hand, I don't believe that it's this menacing creature that's going through the woods and ripping people apart either, because we would just definitely have more stories than that,
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Chubbs, what did you think of the giant revealed?
I was hopeful for a brief second, but like many of all the ones we watch, when they're really short or there's nothing after or there's no follow up, it's just depressing, because like I guess that's the one thing about like the Freeman footage or the Patterson Gimlin, where like you got something to look at for a second and analyze, and then there's these ones where it's like, okay, it's either Bigfoot or carpet or a person, and so for a brief second I was hopeful, but nah, it didn't do it for me.
And then Richard, did he ever, I mean, we all think it's a hoax, but did he ever admit it was a hoax, or it just keeps on going? Just keeps on going, no problem, just moving on, right?
It's not that we think it's a hoax, Kevin. It's that it's so obviously a hoax.
Well, yeah, but I realize that, but I mean, it's not like he said, "No, I was hoaxing you guys." I think that's the difference.
He'll never admit that.
Yeah,
I mean, he just disappeared for a while.
Oh yeah,
he disappeared for a while. He's back now, but I don't know. We haven't seen anything from him. He definitely jumped the shark with the giant reveal. His other two, well, I guess it's okay to call them hoaxes now. They weren't as blatant as the giant revealed, like the thing behind the bush and the thing in front of the tree.
He erased that. The one
Yeah.
the one that I called him on, the one behind the bush.
Yeah.
It was so obvious to him and everyone after my explanation that he just got rid of it.
And I know there's people in the community like Jeff Kelly who say that Timber Giant Bigfoot films like bears or moose and says it's Bigfoot. Nah, he's got someone with a suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I despise that video because I can look at it as a turning point in my presence in the Bigfoot community. I can look back on it and go, yeah, that's it. That's the video that broke me. And everything after that has just been gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I just want to give you a hug. I just want to come across the Irish Sea to Manchester. Give you a big hug. I'm not gonna do it like but
I have to rethink this 2 guys in the woods thing now.
Manchester is a bit of a ways away from me, my friend.
Oh, all right. Oh, well.
Oh yeah.
I was just assuming it was, whatever.
Manchester. I'm way northern than fucking Manchester.
Oh, you like to almost Ayrshire?
I'm right there next to Carlisle, man. I'm right on the border.
Oh, there you go. Well, then you can always get married to somebody at Gretna Green. Then nobody ever knows. If nobody knows what that means, they can look it up.
I know what that means, and yes, I totes can.
Yep.
A shotgun wedding with an actual shotgun.
You have to. So people don't know. Basically, under English law, you could go to Scotland, and go to Gretna Green, which is one of the first communities across the border from where Richard lives, and you could get married by a blacksmith in this sort of just sort of Las Vegas style medieval wedding, and you jump the anvil. That's how you get married. Whenever you're done getting married, the blacksmith marries you, and that was legally binding, and then that was it.
There's a hell of a service station there now, and with one delicious Burger King. If you want to go to Gretna Green now, just saying.
Yeah, I haven't been there for years and years and years.
I passed through there on my way to Dumfries and Glasgow and Edinburgh. But yes, it is a nice place to visit. But yes, on that depressing note, we'll end this show. I'd like to thank my co-host for coming in tonight. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many. We'll have some really bad Bigfoot videos, no doubt, to talk about. Phil, you got any cool breakdowns coming?
Well, one that's not Bigfoot related, actually. It's a couple of them that are UFO and so forth. So that should be interesting. One is the Turkish UFO.
Oh, I'm going to look forward to that one. That's good stuff right there. Chubbs, are the Dude Brothers doing any cool reviews or what?
Actually, I have another one coming out tonight around 7:00. That's Central Time. We're doing best of as we wrap up the end of the year.
Yeah, we'll be doing our end of year wrap up in December sometime. Kevin, Nikki, you guys doing anything this week?
Nope.
That would be a negative. No, I'm not. Well, am I? No, I'm not doing anything this week.
Alrighty then. So that's us for the week. See you next week. The intro may change, but the outro will always be.
Good night, everybody.
Absolutely brilliant. Good night.